Guys, listen, I don't like celebrating people getting fired, but I don't feel bad for Scott Frost because he's $15 million richer. Fire me right now for $15 million. Fire, like, it's just the truth. There's a saying in coaching. You're trying to make it to your first buyout. It's like in the NFL, you want to make it to your second contract. In college football coaching, you want to make it to your first buyout. But they're bad. Like, it's bad. It wasn't getting better. Trev Alberts came out, and he did say some things that I liked. He said, we need to stop worrying so much about our past championships and start worrying about our future. I like that. You can't keep going back to this well of, well, since we're in Nebraska, it's all going to work out. But what worries me is they're going to hire somebody like Gary Patterson, who's a great coach, but isn't a guy that's going to get anybody excited in Nebraska. They need somebody that is exciting, maybe young, does something schematically that gets the people going. It's not just vanilla ice cream and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's why I'm telling you, Hugh Freeze somebody's going to get him. If Brian Harsin ends up, if Nebraska doesn't hire him, which they probably won't, and Auburn lets Brian Harsin go, I would not be shocked if Hugh Freeze ended up at Auburn. But at some point, you've got to stop running the same play. You can't go back and just, Tommy Frazier doesn't need to be the coach. Okay, you can't keep getting on this wheel of, well, we'll use nostalgia to try and move us forward. It doesn't work. A change had to be made. I get it. But guys like Brett Bielema, don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think that'd be a bad hire.
That's not young and exciting or
Brett, to me, his offense is exciting. We're going to get in 12 personnel, run play action. Actually, if you look at what they're doing at Illinois right now, and I know he's not technically the OC, they're doing a lot more stuff out of 10 and 11 personnel. Brett's kind of evolved a little bit in what he used to do. You remember at Arkansas and Wisconsin, it was line up and we're going to run the ball twice and throw it on third down. But to me, if it's not Hugh Freeze, I like a guy like Kendall Briles. I like a guy, if you're going to go on the defensive side, go up and get Jim Leonard from Wisconsin. I think they need to go young. I think they need to go exciting because remember, Tom Luganville made a great point when he was on the show a couple weeks ago. I think the average miles distance of a recruit that committed to Nebraska was like 532 miles, something like that, maybe even higher. Like the average for Houston was like 32 miles. You need somebody that can draw players to Nebraska. And it's not like Nebraska has the worst roster ever, Cone, but they don't have the guys that can break the game open. It looks like they don't have the guys on defense that are super quick twitch. It just doesn't look like it to me.
Well, this move had to be made. Some Nebraska fans were reaching out to us yesterday saying they actually like the move happening before October 1st because it shows that Trev Alberts and the administration doesn't care about the money. They care about the direction of the program. And there was some speculation that with Trev Alberts being a former Nebraska football player just a few years before Scott Frost, that they wanted him to get his full buyout. Like, I can't speak to any of that. But, if you're not able to beat Georgia and Alabama, but you're having 10-win seasons, like that's a different problem than not being able to beat Georgia Southern. And look, someone called Georgia Southern beat Nebraska this entire offseason. One person did.
You did.
So again, great win by them. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. I think Hugh Freeze would be a really good hire. I like that. I like that hire. He's going to get a second chance somewhere. So the thing is, Nebraska, I know that, look, Nebraska wants high-character guys in there. Integrity matters. You go to Hugh Freeze, you sit him down, you vet him. If you don't feel comfortable with it, okay, move on. You at least need to get an interview because Hugh Freeze is going to get a second shot somewhere else. And he's a good football coach. He can recruit. He's going to bring that level of offensive game planning that you're talking about. I still don't think Gary Patterson would be a good hire, though. Young and exciting don't need to be the metrics to me. Scott Frost was young and exciting and innovative on offense. That didn't
was
really
he there, or
work
was Josh Heupel innovative on offense? Because Scott Frost didn't run what they ran at UCF.
Well, that was the perception anyway. I'm not saying what he is or what he wasn't. That was the perception, was that not only was he a Nebraska guy, that was one box checked, but young, exciting, all that kind of stuff. The problem with like Kendall Briles or any of the coordinator routes is I just don't know if Nebraska is going to hire someone with no head coaching experience. We saw Notre Dame just do it with Marcus Freeman. He's 0-3 now. If you want to sit by a guy and you're willing to go through the lumps of not having head coaching experience, but they're going to recruit and they'll be able to game plan on one side of the ball or the other with Kendall Briles, it'll be on offense, then that's one thing. But I think Gary Patterson or someone like that, while they're not going to bring in they're not going to excite recruits all across the country, they would at least be able to add a certain level of stability to Nebraska, which I think would be good right now. And we always talked about Bo Pelini. Well, Bo Pelini wasn't exciting, but you know what? Nebraska would love a coach who could win 10 games right now.
Yeah, for sure. But Blaine, the thing is this, and this is, I believe this to be true. How many guys right now that have built up equity would take that Nebraska job? Like, to me, like young and exciting It doesn't have to be both. To me, it has to be one or the other. Because if I'm Dave Aranda at Baylor, I'm not leaving Baylor. There's no chance in hell. If I'm Matt Campbell, I'm not leaving Iowa State, a place where I could probably be a lifer to go to Nebraska. You're either going to have to go young or you're going to have to go try and resurrect somebody like a Hugh Freeze. And people say, oh, well, would Hugh Freeze want that job? I'm going to tell you something. He's been on Broadway and got knocked down to local theater. Sorry, Liberty. No offense. I know it's a great place to coach. They got a lot more money. Hell, I think they got a ski resort on campus, okay? Yeah, it's not a terrible situation over there. But again, when you're on Broadway and you're over there doing Cats, Hugh Freeze dressed up in a cat suit, swinging around, singing, and then all of a sudden you look back and you're doing Phantom of the Opera at the local theater in Pelham, Alabama. It's a little bit different. He wants back in the show. He'd take the job. If I'm Jamie Chadwell, I'm doing what Billy Napier did. Yeah. I'm looking at this going, I built up all this equity at Coastal, and no, not going to do it. I'm going to wait for the next job. Because Nebraska right now, with proximity and being in the Big Ten, I go back and forth, Blaine, because one of these young guys, if they're looking at the up-and-coming young guys, could look and go, hey, man, if we went to Nebraska and I won 8 games the first year, I'd be a hero already. If I won 9 games, they'd name the state after me. If I won 10 games, he'd probably be the president.
Build you a statue.
Yeah, they'll build you a statue. What do you think?
Well, the thing about it is, like, let's look at the pool of guys that we can realistically hire. I mean, Mark Stoops, no.
No, hell no.
Pittman, no. Urban Meyer, no. I mean, who? Other than maybe a young OC, or maybe not even young, but a guy that OC, DC. I mean, there's.
Do you think Urban Meyer no? Do you think Urban Meyer would tell Nebraska no?
So I think Urban would say yes, but I don't know if Nebraska would offer him.
Look, here's the thing. Do you want to be like the good guy down the street, or do you want to be the lead singer at Kiss? You got to make a decision at some point.
Hold on, what are you saying?
I feel like Nebraska's like, we need a Nebraska guy that's going to set the table, and he's never made a mistake ever, and does this, that, and the other. No, y'all need somebody who can go in there and win. And I'm all for morality and stuff like that. Y'all know me. I'm not saying you go get a terrorist to be the coach at Nebraska. But what I'm saying is sometimes if you want the biscuit, you got to risk it a little bit. And guess what? It's a forgiveness story. What is America? What is
to
more
go hire
wholesome?
Urban Meyer?
What is more wholesome?
Bro,
hold on. What is more wholesome? What is more wholesome than resurrecting somebody's career who's faltered in Nebraska? That's as American.
I mean, was it Bill O'Brien?
Ew, no.
Why not?
Because he's the next head coach.
He looks like he's in line for Bama.
Well, like, when are we sure Nick Saban's going to ever retire? How long is he going to wait?
That's a good question.
That's a totally different discussion.
I don't know if Jamie Chadwell's turning down that job. If you go at that, because that's a guy that hits all those boxes. He does have head coaching experience. He's on a roll right now. He's recruited well. He is young, innovative on the offensive side of the ball, a little bit different than what Nebraska's done on offense. Good. Okay, that's what you need. Is Jamie Chadwell really turning down the Nebraska job?
Man, I don't think it's a for sure thing, but would you say the same thing? Billy Napier turned down the Auburn job? I mean, these coaches, when you've built so much equity, you get one shot at this.
Yeah, that's true.
You get one shot. So to me, if I'm Jamie Chadwell, I'm kind of scoping out, I'm looking, because as a coach, you hope for movement. You like movement. Because guys getting fired means another guy's going to get hired, and it's probably going to increase the price. The price is going to go up. You pray for movement because it opens up other jobs for you too, especially if you're an assistant coach. So I think Jamie, I would put it at 50-50.
It always seemed like the natural next step for him would be an ACC school, right?
Yeah, well, he already
it just fits.
Right,
it just fits,
something like that.
What if you go get the bad guy from Mindhunter, Kellen Moore from
Kellen Moore? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody wants to touch Kellen Moore right now.
Off one game. Off one game. If you watch, he's done well. He's done well.
He's done okay.
It's like they don't have anybody like on receiver. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, that's it. Gallup's out.
Hey, you put some respect on Dalton Schultz's name.
Hey, look, that's two of my fantasy tight ends. He balled.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
All right, hey, if you like what you heard, go ahead and ring that bell. Turn those notifications on. We're bringing it every day daily from 2 to 3 Central, and we want you here. I can hear it ringing now.